a fast explanation of the equipment we use day to day making our YouTube videos, just so you can get a glimpse of it. We use lots of different kinds of equipment, but 80% of the footage you see in the last 2 to 2.5 years on the channel has been shot with this camera right here, or the other one just like it. This is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, generally known in the industry by the initials BMPCC 4K. Great camera, has got some great, wonderful advantages, has some disadvantages. This camera has a nice cinematic look. This camera is pretty good in low light situations like the cabin, which is an important place to be shooting. So it's good in there. It uses fairly inexpensive lenses. It's got some great pro ports in the side. It's got a full-size HDMI port and audio in, power in. It's got a great panel on the back for doing settings and things like that. It's got just one switch for high speed, so if you want to do slow motion, it's got some real great advantages. It's got some disadvantages. The battery life totally stinks, and you have to have an external battery that's nice and big and heavy. It does not have very good autofocus. It's horrible autofocus, so you basically have to manually focus every time. And it does not have any in-body stabilization. So if you're hand holding it, it's easy to have a shaky shot. So there are some things that, and it does not have a very big sensor size in it. It's a micro four thirds sensor. It's probably about that big, about the size of a postage stamp on the inside of that. So it's a great camera. Aaron and Caleb love them, and we use them for, again, 80% of the things. Even though live stream is done, at least at the Nutmeg Tavern, it's done on one of these cameras. Here is the rig. As you see, when Aaron's shooting, this is what the rig looks like. So it's got the external battery, it's got an external microphone, it's got an external monitor, so you can really see what you're shooting, because it's not easy to see on that little screen. Over here is a place for a hard drive to plug into it. So you need all kinds of wires, and it's not an easy rig to run handheld. It takes a long time to set it up. Well, relatively a long time. It takes you a half hour to get that camera all ready to go. If we want to do a handheld shot, we want to run in with something a little lighter, a little quicker, in-body stabilization. This is the last generation camera we were using. This is the GH5. It has in-body stabilization. It can match the stabilization with the lens. It's a lot lighter. It has a lot better battery life. Not, again, micro four thirds sensor, so it's not huge, but it's a super little camera. Uses the same lenses as that one, and so it's fairly interchangeable. Wonderful camera. Love them. And we even have one of the next generation, the GH6, which is actually what I'm shooting on right now. It has one of the best autofocuses of the cameras that we've got currently in stock. I don't, when I'm shooting at home, maybe for, Patreon or Townsends Plus, or pick up footage where Aaron needs just a little hunk of footage, and I don't have their rigs here. They're someplace else. And when I leave, I need to have my own cameras, so I use a different kind of camera. I need something that's a little more portable, and so I use the Lumix S5 camera, and it has a full-size sensor in it. So if I take off the lens here, the sensor that's inside there is like 50% bigger, maybe even 65% bigger. And that has some real advantages in how easy it is to make that shallow depth of field look with a very, very out of focus background, nice fuzzy background and crisp foreground. It's also good in low light situations. So I use this in the cabin when I'm alone. It can shoot some very, very beautiful shots, very cinematic looking. Again, a 4K camera, and it has some advantages, even in sort of the kind of files it gives compared to the Blackmagic. You can do some great things with the S5, and they just upgraded the S5 to the S5 Mark II, and who knows, if I'm lucky, I'll get one of those. You saw the gimbal setup with in that behind the scenes footage, and that's a little special gimbal handle we put on one of these S5s to give a very, very smooth look when you're walking. The newer cameras have so much in-body stabilization that probably we won't need that pretty soon. If I'm doing a behind the scenes video, and sometimes even a YouTube video, and I'm doing it by myself and I'm walking and talking, then this is the camera I use. Yeah, it's pretty funny. You know, all these other cameras are giant, you know, huge, and sometimes that's this little spot right up here is actually the camera. Part of it is that big, right? And the rest of it, there's the gimbal that makes it so that everything's smooth. There's a little screen on the back here. I can start this guy up. You can see off it goes. It's ready to go. So when I'm walking, it's smoothing all that out and making sure that the scene is all rock steady and looks good. And I mean, it shoots 4K. Yeah, it's not going to give you a cinematic look, but if you're walking and talking and you want to talk to a camera, this is the camera that I use most of the time. And it even has decent audio built into it. So I don't have to have a different audio device when I'm shooting with it. It might sound slightly better if I did, but I can get away with that. Very occasionally, we use GoPro footage. So you've seen some of that in maybe the, there it goes, there's a little GoPro screen, and we use that for some of those POV shots, like the clay hitting it when we did clay, the underwater shots for the canoe. It's the only camera that I'm going to put underwater, let me tell you. So sometimes we use the GoPro. So it's a fun camera to use, you know, inexpensive, and you know, you can, you know, in like the clay shot, we were willing to risk damaging this camera versus, you know, our other cameras. Sometimes you see the drone shots. So we've got the Mavic Air drone that we use. Again, so super easy to use. You know, many years ago, I flew radio-controlled airplanes. This isn't even flying. I mean, it's so automatic. You can even have it track you. So I'll, you know, use it. I'll say, okay, follow me, you know, drone, and you know, on the screen. And then I'll put the controller down and I'll walk away and the drone will follow me and shoot the video. It's virtually cheating. We don't use it a lot. I think you can overuse drone footage. I think it takes you kind of away sometimes when, I mean, it's neat, and then is it really helpful? Be interesting to see what happens in, you know, retention, whether people really connect with that. Audio wise, Cindy Klink was interested in what we do for audio, and in the past we used to use shotgun microphones, big shotgun microphones with a, you know, dead cat thing on it to keep the wind noise away, and we'd have a big boom arm. Maybe somebody would be out there doing it, or we'd have a great big giant mic stand that held the microphones just right. We used that for years and years. There are even special mounts in the German kitchen where we would just mount these microphones to the ceiling, point them at where the action was going to happen. You know, it was, you know, the sound was okay. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, because the closer you get that microphone, better it's going to sound no matter what happens. Those shotgun microphones, they don't reach out and get the sound. They just sort of try to isolate all the sound that's coming in from the wrong direction. You know, it's the best of a bad thing. What we use day to day, what I have on right now here, is a Zoom F2. And this is a little tiny pocket recorder. It's got a microphone connected to it. You turn this guy on, you hit the record button, and you put it in your pocket, and you're done. This even records, no, it won't make any sense to anybody but Cindy, 32-bit float audio. So it has a massive dynamic range compared to a standard audio device. And so you don't even have to set the levels. You basically get everything and you fix all that in post. This is a magic piece of equipment, let me tell you. Pretty darn inexpensive for what it is. And we could plug in a $500 microphone to this. No problem. And the audio would be that much better. It would be better, yes. But the microphones on these things are so delicate. I mean, you pull them just a little bit and you rip the cord out or whatever. In fact, this microphone's pretty decent. And it was sitting here on my desk, and Ivy's kitten came in and just thought this cord was wonderful, and it ate the cord and ruined this expensive microphone. Almost all the time, we actually use the cheap, lousy microphone that comes with the unit, probably only worth 20 bucks. They sound pretty good. You got to do a little EQing, yeah, but I haven't heard anybody complain yet. So that's audio. There it is. Cameras, audio, special cameras here and there. But the reality is a good video isn't really about having a stunning image. It's a lot more about the people behind the camera and their creative ability about putting those images together. And I mean, we could probably still be using the camera we started out with, making some of the best stuff 12 years ago, the Canon T2i, and you can still get stunning images out of this camera if you're willing to work at it. Yeah, they're just 2K. Yeah, it doesn't have autofocus and can't do special, things, but you could still make a stunning video with a 12-year-old $200 camera. It's about the people behind the camera. It's about me in front of the camera and what the story I have to tell. If I don't have a good story, they can't make much out of the images, and it's just a showcase for a camera. And that's useless. Nobody except for camera geeks cares about sample footage from cameras. You want that to turn into a story. You want it to be you want it to be useful information. You want to feel something at the end. So a good video starts up here, and and ends up being a creation of the team. Yep, using sometimes some expensive tools, but the tools really are almost the least important part of what we do. And what comes from up here is directly affected by who I'm talking to. It is almost impossible to tell a good story to a generic, unknown person in the universe. You can't do it. If someone said, okay, I need you to tell a good story, but it might be to, one of 8 billion people. Okay, I mean, yeah, there are commonalities between me and every other of the 8 billion people, but, it's going to be really hard for me to tell this universal story. It's a billion times easier for me to be able to connect with people on Patreon, and then I know who I'm talking to, even when I'm talking to YouTube. And that's what makes a good video, a good story, a reason to do it in the first place. So thank you for being there, not just with a monetary support, which helps us with, me being able to have team members and me having equipment and having the time to put together and make the videos, but also the support of, the moral support and the yeah, we're here for you kind of support. That's what makes it possible. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.